Oh, the city of Toronto. The city of Toronto is marching ahead with its plan to become a so-called sanctuary city. A motion passed last week, and it calls for city staff to look the other way when it comes to illegal immigration, avoid collecting citizenship information from residents wherever possible. Toronto will also look at the creation of a city ID card to make it easier for illegal immigrants to access city services. And of course, there's the attempt by the city and the province to do away with changes to refugee healthcare changes the feds brought in. Rick Salutin is a columnist with the Toronto Star. He joins us from Canada's sanctuary city, Toronto. Rick, do you feel like you're in a sanctuary in our studio there in Toronto?
It's very comfy here.
What do you make of this policy? Because to me, this is one of those things that says, come on in, break the law, we'll look the other way. To me, that's just going to encourage more of what currently is probably a pretty small problem, but will grow.
I think we're actually getting the worst of at least two worlds in this situation. I mean, if you think about the temporary foreign workers program, which has exploited people without any citizenship rights and brought them in, and then ratcheted up anxiety among people in a difficult economic situation anyway, where they can't get jobs. And then you throw into it all of these kind of side issues about illegal immigrants. You create a very unpleasant social vibe. And I'm for anything that calms that down.
So how do we calm it down? I mean, to me, I'm a big fan of legal immigration, but not of saying you can break the rules and we'll look the other way. I think this has been part of the key to the success of Jason Kenney and the Conservatives in getting a lot of support from immigrant voters, because the legal ones, they don't want anyone breaking the rules and getting in behind them any easier.
I think it's a bit more sinister than that. I think that he's been astute in making those contacts with ethnic communities. But they've played the other side. He's brought in these temporary foreign workers to a ridiculous extent and deprived them of the opportunity of citizenship. So you create a real secondary tier, a pool of workers with no rights who are shuttled in and out of the country and who create anxiety among people. And then we know how people don't quite get the difference between immigrants and refugees and temporary foreign workers. And then Kenney and the government are prepared to jump to the other side and say, oh, no, we're not going to let anybody break the rules, having created this situation where there's
I think temporary foreign workers and illegal immigrants are two distinct things.
They absolutely are.
Temporary foreign worker could be anyone from the coach of the Toronto Argos to someone picking fruit or someone that just comes up with their spouse. Let's play a clip of Kenney, though, talking about Toronto's decision to move towards sanctuary city. Here's what he had to say a little while ago.
I think actually their motion tries to help illegal immigrants to stay in Canada, and we think that's the wrong message to send. We think we should be sending the message that if you're here illegally, look, Canada is an open and generous country. All we ask is that you respect our laws. So if you're here illegally, please respect our laws and go back to your country. If you want to come back to Canada, get in the same line as everyone else. Make a regular visa application, a regular immigration application. But I know that immigrants, legal immigrants to Canada, have very little tolerance for those who cut the queue and cheat the system.
Yeah, I consider that sinister and insightful. Yeah, no, there's real coded language in there, and it's skillful.
Coded language.
Yes,
okay,
it's creating a class.
I don't have my I only have my wedding ring on, not my decoder ring. Fill me in,
as it happens. It's creating a division between people who feel we are legitimate immigrants, we are here for real, and then there are those bad people, the bad immigrants who aren't. Yeah. A lot of the people that are being referred to here are people would immediately think refugees, and there's something illegitimate about that. Instead
only
of
the bogus ones.
What? Well, if they're here on refugee status, then they'll be having hearings, and we have a process for that. No, in a sense, there are no bogus refugees. There are just people who have been and haven't been approved. But it all leads up to creating this environment of anxiety. And if I may sort of get a bit abstract, not abstract, widen a bit on this, this all comes from 25, 30 years of globalization and neoliberal economic policies where human beings are reduced to labor. And millions of them are shuffled around the globe in pools, so that they don't really belong anywhere. And people who are in particular countries develop a tremendous sense of anxiety, and that can then be played on. Brian,
I'll show you why. Look at what's happened to the U.S. border right now, where they've said they're not going to enforce it, and you have rooms, gymnasium-sized rooms at times, filled with Mexican children that are being dropped off. You know, because parents want to get their kids into the U.S., they just show up, leave the kids, take off. You've got to look after this now. This is not compassion, warehousing these people that there's no one to look after.
But this is the predictable result of policies that created unemployment in Mexico, in this case, and in other places. And you know, if you're a person in a position of responsibility, then you have to be able to see ahead to these things happening. You have created this situation, and then what do? Someone like Kenney, in my opinion, you play on them for electoral gain. I think we saw, I mean, what we saw in the European Parliament elections in Europe was very disturbing, but it was totally understandable, and it was similar to the kind of issue that you're raising here. Massive anxiety due to unemployment or falling wages, stoked up by fear of impoverished illegal immigrants who are going to come in, which is then used for electoral advantage.
All right, well, we'll see if that is how it plays out over the next little while. Enjoy living in the sanctuary city.
Okay, thanks for that.